What's up, y'all? My name is JR, and for those of you who don't already know, I'm a huge movie and TV nerd. If you're new here, I appreciate you taking the time to check out my channel. I hope you'll consider sticking around and joining the film community I'm trying to build here on YouTube. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving my thoughts, my freestanding thoughts before watching season 3 of the Showtime series Yellowjackets. And just so you guys know, this video will contain some mild spoilers, so if you haven't gotten around to watching the first 2 seasons of this show yet, and you don't want to know anything that happens in it, you might want to exit this video now. And with that being said, no more wasting time. Let's get into it. Now, Yellowjackets to this point has been a bit of a mixed bag, if I'm being honest. It's just compelling enough to keep watching, even though the show has tried to play mind games with the audience in ways that I believe have diminished its overall narrative value. You know, starting the pilot episode with one of the girls being hunted down in the woods in the past and ultimately killed, and then skipping forward just enough to let us see her being bled out, cut up, cooked, and eaten, only to put off who it was or why it happened almost 2 full seasons now, was simply put, clickbaity. And it was beneath a television show that you would find on a mainstream cable network or streaming service. That's the kind of thing you would expect to see a YouTuber do, or some kind of TikToker. I just didn't like the decision to do that, to play the game that way. But, you know, here we are. Now, from there, the issues with the show's narrative structure have been made apparent in that the most compelling part of the story was the girls trying to survive the wilderness. But that part of the story gets chopped up and fed to us in doses so small that they don't really do much in the way of making us care about the adult versions of these women who have survived as they go through their lives in the present. Which is the whole point of a flashback, to give context so that you care about what's going on in the here and now. And I think the show fails miserably at that particular aspect. And speaking of those who survived the wilderness, it's been 2 full seasons now, and we still don't have a complete list of survivors. Now, sure enough, we've watched people die. But what we really want to know, because the show skips ahead to the present, is who survived. And in season 1, the show does feature Shauna, Misty, Taissa, and Natalie. And then Travis, we understand, survived, even though he kind of checks out pretty early on. And we also learned fairly early on that Jackie did not survive. But we have to wait until the end of the season to find out how she passed. And it wasn't what I was expecting given how the story was set up, which I didn't really have a problem with. In fact, I actually thought it was a clever sleight of hand on behalf of the writers, you know, for Jackie to pass the way that she did, instead of the way that I'm sure we all thought she would have. But then in season 2, we find out that Van and Lottie also survived the wilderness. So going into season 3, one has to wonder if the writers are going to pull another rabbit, or rabbits, plural, out of their hats just to make up for the fact that they've told this story out of order. Now, the writers also came up with a pretty shitty why in this one. And I always tell you guys, it's the why that's maybe the biggest determining factor in whether a show or a movie will be looked upon as good or not, right? It's not just what does someone do, but when you find out why they did it, that's going to be the thing that in most, if you really think about it, in most of the situations when you're judging a movie or a TV show, it's the why that makes you go, oh, that show was good or it wasn't good. And the why here just wasn't good. Now, we know that the girls survived by way of cannibalism. In fact, they're trying to keep that a secret in the present. But we don't find out how that came to pass until late in season 2, 18 episodes in fact, which I thought was just way too deep into the narrative for something like that, right? I think that was something that you should have gotten out of the way maybe by the end of season 1, but I digressed. And though the young ladies decided in a fit of hunger to eat Jackie after she froze to death over what I think was a stupid argument considering the circumstances, the prevailing decision to eat the dead started because Lottie volunteered to let Shauna beat her within an inch of her life after losing her baby. And then, because the group didn't have access to food, she wasn't healing and thought she might die. And so she told Misty, who was caring for her at the time, that if she did die, that she didn't want her body to go to waste. But the group decided that Lottie was so important that they would draw cards to see who would sacrifice themselves in her stead. so that she could eat and heal and maybe survive, right? And I have to say, that's maybe the dumbest, most unrealistic way to become a cannibal I've ever heard of, right? Now, I can understand deciding to eat the people who died by the wilderness in order to stave off hunger. As uncomfortable as that makes you feel when you think about it, you can at least make sense of that, right? I can even understand some of the members of the group killing other members over disagreements and the like, because after spending all that time in the wilderness, I could understand people would kind of lose their civilized minds a bit and, things could turn violent. But saying to yourself, yeah, I'll volunteer my life to save the life of another person who, in the grand scheme of things, if you really, really think about what's actually going on, is no more important than anybody else, is stupid as hell. And it goes to show you that this story wasn't very well thought out. Because I'm not going to lie to you guys, I could have come up with a much better why than that. Anyway, I'm approaching season 3 of this show with a healthy bit of skepticism. But secretly, I am hoping that the writers come up with a way to save the show, because I actually thought the premise had potential. And that's why, ultimately, I decided to watch this show in the first place. But what do you guys think? Have you had a chance to watch the first 2 seasons of Yellowjackets yet? If you have, what do you think about how the writers have chosen to tell this story? Let me know in the comments. And for those of you that might be new to the channel, be sure to like and share this video. If you really like the content, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I drop a new video. You can also support the channel by leaving a super thanks now. If you should be so inclined, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, be sure to go and check out theMadScreenwriter.com for more television and film reviews and info on my upcoming film projects. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I got screenplays to write. And I'll catch y'all in the next video.